At its conception in the 1850s, the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was meant to be a first-of-its-kind institution, a hopeful solution to treating the mentally insane. Built on the ideals of Dr. Thomas Story Kirkbride, one of the pioneering leaders of fair and humane mental health treatment, the West Virginia Hospital was meant to be a place where those struggling with mental illness could receive compassionate care while keeping freedom and control over their lives. While these initial intentions were pure, the asylum, unfortunately, turned out to become what could only be described as a true hospital of horrors. The Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum opened for patients in 1863. The facility could treat as many as 250 patients at a time, and was adorned with breathtaking hand-cut stone masonry, tall windows, and self-sustaining features including an on-site farm, water and gas wells, and a cemetery. For years, the asylum provided comfortable shelter to patients, but by 1881 it was quickly overwhelmed as the world faced the stigma surrounding mental illness. Many patients were admitted for peculiar reasons, including laziness, grief, seduction, and even novel reading. The world simply did not have the understanding of mental illness as it does today, and many suffered at the hands of ignorance. The Trans Allegheny Asylum was running out of space to treat the influx of patients arriving at the facility. In the late 1800s, capacity had been exceeded by over 500. As a result, conditions began to rapidly decline. Numerous patients were assigned to rooms that were made for one, and the property's farm animals were unable to keep up with the demands of the stream of patients, resulting in malnourishment for many. These factors only worsened the state of those in the asylum, leaving the chaos that was about to ensue almost inevitable. With the world's ignorance to mental illness came experimental treatments that gravely contradicted the principles of the facility's founder, Dr. Kirkbride. The asylum took up many medical practices throughout the years, including ice water baths, electroshock therapy, isolation cells, and even lobotomies. One of the most common procedures conducted at the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was the ice pick lobotomy, which occurs when a doctor attempts to, quote, fix the prefrontal cortex of a patient's brain by piercing the inner corner of the eye with an ice pick using force to reach the brain. In 1952 alone, one doctor at the asylum was recorded to have performed 228 lobotomies during a 2-week period. At the time, it was believed that this procedure could alter a patient's behavior enough to hopefully cure their illness. This procedure was gruesome, and in most cases, caused severe permanent damage to the patient. The facility continued to attempt to meet the needs of the patients seeking care, but their capacity to do so only dwindled as time went on. By the 1930s, the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was housing 6 times the number of patients it had been designed to serve. Overwhelmed staff attempted to control the facility, but the sheer number of patients severely outnumbered them. At its peak, the asylum was housing as many as 2,400 patients, 10 times over capacity. Word spread of the inhumane conditions patients were enduring at the asylum, and the local Charleston Gazette conducted an investigation. What they found was chilling. Patient beds lined the freezing floors, in hallways and throughout the rooms. The windows were caked with grime, and the wallpaper was peeling. Patients were increasingly becoming more violent as overcrowding worsened. There were several cases of patients murdering one another, including one instance of 2 patients hanging another using a set of bed sheets. When their attempt was unsuccessful, the pair beat his head with a metal bed frame. Patients also continued their attacks on overworked staff. Several female employees were sexually assaulted, and one nurse went missing on duty, only to be found months later decomposing in a disused stairwell. Over the years, the Charleston Gazette continued to publish shocking allegations against the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, In 1985, they reported that many patients were roaming naked and left in unsanitary rooms. Some of those deemed inconsolable were kept locked in cages. In 1992, the paper exposed the asylum yet again for unlivable conditions. These allegations and the number of patients that continued to die at the hands of violence and negligence resulted in the ultimate closure of the facility by 1994. The cemetery on the property is the final resting place of over 2,000 patients that once lived at the hospital. Many of these tortured souls are said to roam the halls of the storied facility. While many of these sightings have occurred since the asylum permanently closed, the hauntings were reported during its years of operations. One doctor who previously worked at the facility has reported that a spirit followed her home and continues to present itself to her, even today. Since its closure, the hospital has become an attraction for paranormal thrill seekers. Many have reported seeing various orbs floating down hallways and apparitions dressed in all white. The building's first floor is allegedly home to a spirit named Ruth. Ruth was a former patient of the Trans Allegheny Asylum who had a passionate distaste for men. While she was alive, Ruth reportedly had a habit of throwing various objects at the men assigned to treat her. In her afterlife, Ruth has been accused of targeting men and is known to physically push them against walls. On the second floor, investigators have reportedly witnessed the aftermath of several violent offenses that took place in Ward 2. It was here that one patient endured 17 stab wounds inflicted by another patient. 2 more hung themselves from curtain rods. Investigators have reported sightings of shadowy apparitions, accompanied by disembodied voices. The third floor is haunted by more patient violence, including suicides and murders. 2 spirits in particular are said to be present here: a former patient named Big Jim and a nurse known as Elizabeth. Investigators have reported sightings of apparitions and figures and have witnessed doors slamming on their own. Terrifying noises have been captured on paranormal investigation devices. One of the most famous spirits is reported to haunt the 4th floor. A young girl named Lily supposedly waits for visitors to arrive and play with her many toys. Some have heard sounds of a music box playing and have seen toys move around the room on their own. Lily is reported to have lived nearly her entire short life in the asylum. She died of pneumonia at age 9. In addition to these specific sightings, many who have dared to take one of the asylum's ghost tours have heard screams, maniacal laughter, and wails throughout the halls. While patients are not currently receiving care at the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, it seems that many of those who once did are forever trapped in an excruciating loop of torment, unable to escape. We are Mystery Syndicate. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Leave a comment and give this video a like. And to be notified when we post new videos, be sure to hit that notification bell. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon. And for exclusive merchandise, visit our website at www.mysterysyndicate.com.